Okay, great. Okay, so I've got a really short slot. It's about 10 minutes. I'm going to try to save some time for questions, but I just, obviously, sports is going to be huge in OTT, yes, as it has been and continues to be in TV. But I thought I was thinking of what to show you guys, and I thought I'd just give you a sample of different services, different ways that sport is being streamed to consumers around the world. So I'm going to jump straight into it. So for those of you who weren't here yesterday, or for those who were, it's a quick recap. I was arguing yesterday morning about how with linear OTT platforms, TV is reinventing itself for an online era. This is happening whilst consumers are also learning how to self-bundle. There's a whole range of different services available, different types of content, consumers learning to pick and mix what they like. And it's a very interesting time to be an analyst, to look at how all of these different services interact. But for now, we're talking about sports. You can see a column there broadly being sports services. So the era of OTT and sports broadcasting online comes with a promise, I would argue, of a transformation of the fan experience. So, of course, we've got the live streaming of content, video on demand, and catch-up. Catch-up is the wrong word. I was going to refer to the sort of making available deeper archives of sport content from various leagues and so on. But where the difference comes from traditional delivery of sports is, of course, the ability to have interactive and social features that perhaps aren't available on legacy TV platforms. But the pioneers that we've seen in terms of going direct to consumers with a premium subscription platform on the internet has been the big US sports league, the big 4+1. They really pioneered the approach of going direct to consumers with a monthly standalone streaming service. They've now been around since about 2011, 2012, gone through various different updates and sort of refined the offering to consumers. And they're starting to come into their own. The number of subscribers you can see on my chart here, this is for 2018, Ovum estimates or Ovum analysis. And they're not, catering to a mass market, but they're, starting to do quite well. So remember, these are services that are available as a standalone outside of any other bundling or pay TV or telco products and so on and so forth. So we got a period now of a few years, 5, 6, 7 years to go back and look at how these services have developed. And it's quite clear that, well, to begin with, they are designed for superfans who wants to pay extra to have more content, to be able to access content in new ways, out-of-home experience, of course, on mobile phones, etc., etc. But in terms of who these services appeal to, I think they're not really built for a mass market audience, and we're not expecting these to really grow to become true mainstream propositions. And big reason for that is, of course, the complexity around sports broadcasting. In the US, it's particularly complex in that different cities and different regions will have different rights, structures, and so on. So if you were to subscribe to one of these services and you go from one state to another, you might see that you find out you cannot actually access your favorite teams. And so it's very complicated. So in order for these to become, as I say, mass market, mainstream proposition, something needs to change. It's already starting to change a little bit with many of these leagues being available on platforms like DirecTV Now, Sling TV, etc., etc. So that's ongoing. More perhaps closer to where we are in the world, Formula One has just, of course, launched their direct-to-consumer streaming platform, Formula One TV. It's going to be a near global launch. It's really, I don't even like Formula One. Apologies if that insults anyone, but having looked at the platform, it looks really, really compelling. And it's, they marketing collateral talked about immersive motorsports experience. And, for someone who doesn't even know what the sport is about, it is that. I took some screen grabs from the video that I showed, you can go in and select various camera angles and be able to follow races in sort of new ways that perhaps you wouldn't be able to do through traditional TV delivery of Formula One. So it's pretty cool. So it's a definitely innovative platform, but same problems exist as it is for the US platforms, in that there's, of course, complexities around licensees, existing partners, broadcasters, having exclusive deals, and so on and so forth. And indeed, in the UK, Sky has an exclusive deal for Formula One until 2024, so this platform is not going to be launched as a direct-to-consumer streaming platform in the UK. But Formula One has hinted that it will perhaps work out a deal with Sky where subscribers will have access to the platform. So, as I say, it's an exercise both in innovation and also how to navigate through the complexity of rights. This platform is going to be available in 58 markets, I think it is, or 60-odd markets around the world. And it seems to us that Formula One has certainly looked at all of those individual markets on their own and see what is the solution that works best for us here. Should we go direct to consumer or stick it out with existing partnerships? Apart from those, the actual sports leagues or the rights owners, of course, Premium Sports has a huge role to play in pay TV packages and their online alternative services. So Sky Now TV in the UK and elsewhere in Europe has, of course, Entertainment Pass, that's TV series, drama. Cinema Pass, that's movies, kids, self-explanatory, and a Sports Pass. So Sports Pass is available on a daily basis, weekly basis, and a monthly basis. And in Ovum analysis, about a quarter of Sky's UK subscribers are taking out those services. Of course, there might be some overlap between the different ones. But it's not just Sky and Now TV that's doing this, a whole range of services around the world. I just picked one, partly because I wrote a report on them recently, and I had the graphs ready at hand this morning. So Wavo, by OSN in the Middle East and North Africa, they built a service that by and large copies Now TV. And it's the same sort of offerings available. Viaplay in Scandinavia has this, and a few, actually several other platforms like this are already available around the world. And then finally, specialist sports services. You might have heard of DAZN or DAZN, built initially as a Netflix for sports. We think that they have just under 1 million subscribers across 5 key markets, Japan being the biggest, where they have exclusive right to Japanese baseball league, I believe. Fubo TV in the US is a virtual pay TV operator, essentially, that are self-billed as a sports-first pay TV package, but they have a whole range of different other channels and so on. And of course, the sports channels and networks like Eurosport, beIN Sports, and Tana Sports all have a range of different direct-to-consumer platforms in different markets. Eurosport, of course, also through Amazon channels. And you know, on a global scale, when we look at what services are available, how compelling they are to consumers, they're pretty much everywhere is starting to pop up one of the type of services that we've seen, at least one. So either specialist or pay TV services or sports leagues. This is happening. Uptake of these services has been quite, I wouldn't say really anything in line with what we've seen how Netflix has performed, perhaps, but certainly there is a demand to watch live and sort of linear streaming of sport, and it's definitely something that we're going to hear more about. That's pretty much it. My 10 minutes is up. I just wanted to give a flavor of how we see the markets, and yeah, I would be happy to take any questions if there's any.
I think we have time for a question for Tony, if anybody wants to grill him now.
I've got one.
Excuse me, we'll bring a microphone to you.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I represent some large sort of private investors who want to choose which of them to invest in. Who's going to win, in other words, because Sky, etc. Can you give me a clue what's happening, or do I just buy little bits of all of them and then wait to who wins in the end? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Who's going to win? I think it's quite clear when we look at the likes of Formula One and even in the US that the sports rights owners are starting to actually look at where they can make the most money. And depending on the makeup of a certain market in the UK, it makes sense to continue to go with Sky. The question is what Formula One's going to do in 6 years' time or whatever. So yeah, it's not as easy to say that it's one or the other. It depends on the market and the makeup. So I'm not answering the question. Yeah.
It's a great question, and I guess we'll try and find some answers this afternoon for you. But okay, well, I think we'll leave it there. That was a nice tough question for Tony to grapple with there. I'm sure he can answer it later. But many thanks, Tony.